If you want to introduce yourself as you're joining, introduce yourself with your name, your organization, where you're coming from. We're going to get started in just a couple of seconds. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. If you are still joining in, please continue to introduce yourself within the chat. It looks like we have quite a few people across the country. We have Washington, Alabama. So awesome to see. Well, welcome everyone. I'm really excited to talk about Beyond PayPal, setting up your first pro donation form for free. My name is Lisa Galprin. I'm the Marketing and Communications Manager here at Mighty Cause, and I'm so excited to have Josh Garcia here, our Fundraising Development Manager, who's going to be talking about PayPal and donation forms and how you can upgrade your donation site for free. Just a little bit of background about Mighty Cause. If this is your first webinar with Mighty Cause, welcome. If you're not familiar with us, we've been in the nonprofit space since 2006. We are a year-round free all-in-one nonprofit fundraising platform. We offer a whole suite of fundraising tools that organizations have access to. There is a QR code, as you see here, in a link. Josh will also talk about how you can learn more and a little bit more about our tools. But we have a whole suite of tools that nonprofits can utilize for free on our platform. Before I pass it off to Josh, just a couple of housekeeping things. This webinar is being recorded, so we will be sending this out in a follow-up email with the slide deck and the recording. For any questions, if you want to use the questions tool in your Zoom dashboard, that's great. I'll also be keeping track of the chat, and we'll have some dedicated time at the end for questions. All right, so enough from me. I'm going to pass it off to you, Josh.
Thank you. All right, let me share my screen here. So everyone, my name is Josh Garcia. I am the fundraising development manager here at Mighty Cause. I have been in the online fundraising space for the past decade, working with nonprofits of all different sizes, from the very small to the very large. And what we're going to be focusing on here today is the benefits of embedded donation forms. So, what we're going to really be focusing on is why we want to have a really unique and positive and professional experience when people are making an online donation. Because for a lot of individuals, your donation page is going to be their first experience having an interaction with you. We want it to be a positive experience. We want it to build trust with them between you and the individual donor. We want it to be easy to do. And we want to make it easy for you on the back end as an organization to not only receive these donations, but also to be able to follow up with those individuals. So the first thing that we're going to be talking about is PayPal. So PayPal is obviously a very common donation form for nonprofits. The biggest problem with PayPal really is that PayPal is not focused on individual donations. I'd say it's something that's simple, and something that's free, and something that a lot of people are familiar with, which is why they turn to it. But really, the point of PayPal is for commerce, not so much for nonprofit organizations. It wasn't really built with nonprofit donations in mind. So there's a number of challenges that we initially see with PayPal buttons. First and foremost is that you're not going to be able to get the type of information that you're looking to accumulate on your donors. Being able to build out donor names, donor contact information, donor preferences, where they want their donation to go towards, what motivated them to go to donate to you, how they like to be contacted, things along those lines. Those can be pretty difficult for an individual organization. And the problem there is that when we're not building up this information, we're not able to follow up with these individuals. The biggest thing for nonprofits to focus on is recurring sustainable donations, building out long-term relationships with their donors. And if we're just simply getting donations passively and through our PayPal, we're working harder, not smarter, to try and constantly fill in and replace those individual donors rather than having a built list that we can then use to build a relationship with for long-term, engaged, sustainable giving. Another issue with PayPal is that it is pretty basic. It's a pretty generic page. It does not have a lot of information. It's not going to provide context on the donations, the work that you're doing. It's not going to provide a lot of different options. It's not going to be branded in any way to your organization. It's not a very essentially engaging or personalized experience. It also limits recurring giving prompts and options, which is going to mean fewer sustainable gifts. Which again, as I mentioned, that's going to be one of our big goals is to focus on sustainable giving and recurring giving. And finally, it's going to pull donors away from your site, which disrupts the giving flow. We don't want donors to have to go between different pages. We want them to be able to stay right there within your website, make it super simple for them to make a quick contribution. So why do we want to move beyond PayPal? Donors want trust and professionalism when they're giving online. Think about just any time that you've made a purchase. If you're making a purchase of a product and you're being taken away from the product's website and you're going to a third-party website, that immediately is going to give you a little bit of hesitancy. Whereas if you're purchasing a product and the website is professional, it's easy to use, it looks secure, it's heavily branded, it gives you lots of information about the product that's going to build more confidence and trust in you as the consumer. So think very similarly from the perspective of your donor. A polished branded donation form is going to show that credibility, it's going to show that trust. When people are spending their dollars in any capacity, whether it's a donation or whether it is a product that they're purchasing, they want to know that it's something that they can trust and they want to know that it's a quality product. In this instance, when they're making a donation, the quality product is you, the nonprofit, in the work that you're doing. So having that sort of polished branded donation page is something that's going to build security, trust, and it's going to help them be able to understand who you are and have further belief in you and your mission. What nonprofits need are tools that build relationships, not just transactions. So this goes back to what I was just mentioning before. If people are just passively making donations on your PayPal page and we're not following up with those individuals, we're not building out a donor list, and we're not starting to segment them based on preferences or interests or reasons to donate or how they like to be communicated with, we're not focusing on long-term sustainable relationships. And by not building a long-term sustainable donor life cycle, we're going to be churning out donors. It is 10 times more cost effective to retain a donor than it is to find someone new to take their place. So think about that. If we don't have a means of being able to build out a long-term relationship and tracking of our donors, that means with each of those donors, we're spending 10 times the cost and effort to find someone new to take their place rather than having a simple tool that's going to capture that information and then allow us to follow up strategically. Essentially, at the bottom of the or at the end of the day, you can raise more and keep your donors more engaged when you upgrade your donation form and have it embedded within your site. So we're going to focus on some of the examples of what one might lack, specifically focusing on Mightycause donation forms. So again, as I mentioned, PayPal is not inherently built for nonprofits. It is a consumer tool. It is a for-profit tool meant for purchases for commerce, whereas Mightycause is specifically built with nonprofits in mind. It is a donation form focused tool. The PayPal donation forms, again, pretty generic, often just this is, please select the amount that you'd like to donate, have a credit card as your option, whereas with Mightycause, it is fully customizable and embeddable within your website. PayPal does not link to any sort of CRM, where Mightycause includes a CRM, a donor management system. That donor management system is going to track your donations. It's going to track reports, your recurring giving, your active donors, your monthly donors, your large donors, your one-time donors, your lapsed donors, their donor preferences, any customizable forms or questions they like to answer, all that'll be included. Recurring giving support, again, PayPal does offer an option for recurring giving, but fairly limited. where with Mighty Cause, a little bit more customization, but also greater tracking and reporting around it. And then when you're thinking beyond just your donation forms, things like peer-to-peer or events or team fundraising, those are not going to be included in PayPal. They're going to keep you pretty limited to just the ability to receive a donation. Whereas with Mighty Cause, you're going to have the options and opportunities to engage your donors, your board members, your volunteers, your supporters, to be able to go out and fundraise, to share within their network, to connect with like-minded people, which again will grow your network, which will then flow into your donor management system, making warm introductions to new donors to build long-term sustainable relationships with. And then from a donation processing fee perspective, Mighty Cause is cheaper. There are donation fees. PayPal is 1.99% plus 49 cents. With Mighty Cause, we offer donors the opportunity to cover the transaction fees on your behalf. And we actually do see that this averages out to is about 0.95% plus 30 cents average processing rate. Now, obviously, a lot of people go to PayPal because it is free. It does not require any sort of monthly subscriptions. But the good news is Mighty Cause is free as well. To be able to use our embedded donation forms, that is also included. So at the end of the day, when you're thinking about from a processing rate, with both of these options not including a subscription fee, PayPal is going to be the cheaper, or sorry, Mighty Cause is going to be the cheaper of the two options. As you can see, PayPal with a higher processing rate and a higher cent rate on top of it as well. So let's focus on the Mighty Cause donation forms. So this is an example of what these might look like here. And I'm going to show you a live example from one of our nonprofits. So this is Dylan's Wings of Change. This is their homepage. When I click on their donate button, it takes me to their Mighty Cause donation form. So I just want to flash that again real quick. See how seamless this is. Notice the subdomain, the branding, the color, the logo. When I click donate, seamless. I'm still on their website. I still see their subdomain, their branded logo, all of their branding. Now, what you're going to immediately notice compared to a PayPal page is how much more information we have. First, the call to action, donate today. Help keep our wingman programs accessible to all. Now, more information about the organization. Thank you for considering a donation to Dylan's Wings of Change. We cannot achieve our mission to foster empathy and build genuine connections between humans without your valuable support. You'll create your own butterfly effect by enabling more students in schools to access our unique Wingman Youth Leadership Program. So a couple things I want to point out. Again, call to action, the value of a donation. Your donation is making this accessible to all. And then here, a much more personal appeal rather than just a blank donate option. Scrolling further, you're going to see one-time donation options or monthly donation options. And I actually recommend as a best practice, you should have monthly as the default option. Have people click to go back to one time, but assume that monthly donation. Now, a couple things that they're doing to help gather those monthly donations. Number one here, they're giving some context with what we refer to as impact statements. An impact statement gives a little bit of a description of what a donation can help accomplish. For example, maybe I'm coming in here, I'm thinking about making a $50 donation. But if $50 funds a student to be able to attend a Wingman workshop, maybe I donate $10 a month because I didn't donate maybe $50 a month, but I can afford $10 a month. Now, over the course of the year, I know that I funded at least students to be able to attend one of their workshops. And you've just taken this donor from a one-time $50 donation to an engaged $100 or $20 a year donation. And again, as I said, it's 10 times more cost effective to retain a donor than to find someone new to take their place. So not only have I moved somebody up from just a one-time $50 donation to $120 over the course of the year through that monthly $10 donation, but also by being more engaged, I don't have to work hard to find someone new to take this donor's place, so long as we're following up with those donors and making them feel appreciated. Additionally, because they're able to control the branding and the messaging of this donation page, I want to highlight here a specific messaging around donations. Have you considered becoming a monthly recurring donor? This spreads your contribution and provides a stable and continuous support for our programs. So the importance and context of a monthly donation rather than just a generic blind ask. Now, here's where we can personalize some of our efforts. We can add a dedication on behalf of, in honor of, in memory of. What we're doing here is we're making the donation a more personalized experience for the donor. Making a donation is a very emotional act, and we don't know what motivated to bring them here to this donation today. But now we can have a little bit of context, and also we can make that emotional connection with them. And this gives us the opportunity to follow up with one of those individuals if they'd like to have a customized message to the person they're donating on behalf of. Maybe there's somebody that's been impacted by your work, and now this is going to allow them to be able to share that message. This is going to be something that remains in their mind. It's going to build that stronger connection between you and the donor, building that donor life cycle. Next, they have a custom question. Would you like to receive more information about starting a Wingman program in your community or booking one of our experiential Wingman workshops? This is essentially now using their donation form as a lead generation tool. Now you'll notice it's optional. We're not requiring them to have to complete this question, but we can identify those that would like to be contacted about starting the program or maybe booking the workshop. And all that information is going to funnel into the back end of our system in our CRM, where we're going to track those individuals and be able to follow up with them. There's a lot of great ways you can use this. Another great example that I've seen, I worked with a Humane Society that had a quick question here. What's your favorite animal, cats or dogs or both? Kind of a fun question. People donating to a Humane Society likely to engage, but how this is used strategically by the nonprofit is on the back end of the system, they can create a tag. So use your imagination. This will say dog donor. So everyone who selected dog now has the dog donor tag. And now I can easily pull them up and message them directly. So if I have a need for dog-related volunteer, if we're in need for emergency funds for dog-related purposes, if there's a new fund or initiative that's dog-related, we know these people have mentioned that dogs are their favorite animal and that they are donors. They're most likely to be engaged and respond. Now they're simply going to fill out their name, contact information, select their payment method. You'll see here they've given a couple options: credit card, PayPal, Venmo, Google Pay. Mighty Cost also offers ACH bank transfer as well as Apple Pay. So what we're doing is we're expanding the number of options that people can choose from to make a donation. If you give these more different options where people can choose their preferred method, they're more likely to donate and more likely to make a recurring donation. And then here, as I mentioned, we're always going to ask the donor to cover the transaction fee on your behalf, and they do elect to do so about 97% of the time. And the last thing that I want to mention is we've walked through this whole Mighty Cause donation page, and you didn't see our name until the very, very bottom, because the branding and the focus is entirely on you, the organization. Oops, sorry. So think about what we just talked about here. What is a seamless donor journey? How do we think about beyond pushing a donor to a donation to checkout? The hero section, the headline and the mission, the validation, the challenges, wins, and impacts. So things that can be difficult for donors. Where do I donate? Where's the donation option? How much should I choose? What does this donation actually equivalent? How are you going to use these dollars? What we want to do is make it very simple for donors to be able to identify the organization, see how their donation can be made or make an impact, make that donation, and complete the process. Very straightforward. So here, this is what we refer to again as those impact statements, giving a little bit of context on what a donation is going to accomplish. Or here, An often thing that people will do for recurring giving campaigns is build out different levels. This is something that we can use to encourage people. $100 a month as a champion, $25 a month as an ambassador. Now, what we can do to follow up with this and help build that engagement is on the back end of that system where I showed you these different tags and groupings. We can start to label. These are our superstars. These are our heroes. These are our champions. These are our ambassadors. And I can pull out a list of each of those groups and message them directly. This is really strategic because we shouldn't be sending everybody the same ask. We're asking for the same amount. If we have somebody that we've identified as the superstar who is a larger giver, that's someone that we might want to have when we go to ask them, maybe a more personal ask. Maybe it comes directly from the executive director. Maybe it comes from a phone call. Maybe we invite them for an in-person meeting. Somebody that is an ambassador giving $25 a month, that's somebody that maybe next year we aim to slightly move them up the ladder a bit. Maybe in our newsletters, we give shout outs to these different groups, giving a little bit of recognition to those people who are making our work sustainable. And as I mentioned, it's really important for us to know our donors. So how we're collecting that data is really critical. Data collection is going to help some of the things that I've mentioned. Personalized donor outreach and engagement. If I just look at somebody and it says Josh donated $25 on August 10th, not a lot of context. If you were asked to reach out to me, you wouldn't really have much outside of the fact that my name is Josh and I donated $25 on August 10th. But let's say I filled out that Dylan's Wings program donation, where I selected $25. I selected that I was interested in hearing about booking their workshop for one of my local schools, and that I actually made a dedication on behalf of a friend of mine who was impacted by their mission. Now, when they reach out to me, they have a lot of context. They can make this very personal. Hey, Josh, thank you so much for your donation of $25. We saw that this is something that's greatly impacted you and someone that you love and care about. And it's really important for us to continue to make that sort of work and impact in the community so that others like you and your friend continue to benefit. We really appreciate your donation. We also heard that you were interested in one of our workshops. We'd love to follow up with you and talk about what that would entail. Let us know how we can best be in touch. We're really looking forward to helping bring this to your community. That is a completely different follow-up made capable from the amount of data that we've collected. So this is now going to enable better stewardship. If I made two donations this past month, and one I get a generic thank you from, and the other I get a little bit more personalized engagement with, I might think about where I'm going to spend my dollars on my next donation. Maybe this is going to shift towards the organization that I'm building this relationship with. Maybe there's somebody that I want to volunteer with and get involved in other capacities, which is also highly valuable. This is going to help us inform our fundraising decisions, and we'll be able to see how effective our outreach campaigns are. So when you're thinking about donor data, there's a couple different things to think about. I worked for a professional certified fundraising executive many years ago, but something that she said to me has always stuck with me, and I preach it to the nonprofits that I work with. And it's that all fundraising, whether you're the smallest nonprofit or the largest nonprofit, all of your fundraising is going to come down to knowing who your donors are, what motivates them to give, and how they like to be engaged. And then what we're going to do is deliver the right message to the right donor through the right channel. So this data, basic information, engagement, motivation, interest, that is what that entails. We obviously need to be able to collect their contact information. We need to be able to know their name, their email, preferably their phone number, preferably a billing address. But then also we want to know, how are they engaged? Are they also volunteers? Are they board members? Have they signed up for our newsletter subscription? What motivated them to give? Have they selected a specific program? Have they left an honor in honor of, a memorial of, on behalf of? By understanding that sort of information, that example that I gave you of an engagement after I filled out the Dylan's Wings of Change donation form, that's going to be able to check all of these boxes. So some examples of some of these sort of customized questions that we're not going to have if we're just using a more basic donation form. But furthermore, we're not going to have a place to be able to store that like we will in a Mighty Cause donor management tool. Mighty Cause is then going to give you real-time reporting. So you'll be able to see, if I jump over into our system, our report tools. I can look at all of my donations. And I can start to look at it through different time ranges. I can start to look at it through different donation types. What campaigns they donated towards. Their payment processing. I can look at, let's say we look at the last 12 months, and I want to reach out to some of our larger donors. I can start to look at everybody who's given it a certain amount, minimum donation amount, maximum donation amount. I can look specifically at my recurring donors. I can see all three of these individuals are currently active donors. When they started their first donation, when we can expect their next one, contact information, which campaigns they donated towards. And I can track my donor retention as well. As I mentioned, 10 times more cost effective to re-engage or to engage somebody that we've already done or is already an active donor rather than someone we've lost. So maybe I want a win and back campaign for all my non-retained donors. I can pull up these individuals, thank them for their last gift, how much they gave, tell them what that donation went towards, give them a reason and motivation to follow up with a new donation. These things are going to allow me to work again smarter, not harder. Now we'll take a look at the donor management aspect of this. So within Mighty Cause, you are able to not only track all these individual donors, but then start to segment them as well. So we're taking a look at an example here. Now, one of the things about Mighty Cause donation form, and just for a little bit of context, if this wasn't clear, when someone makes a donation on your Mighty Cause donation form, once they complete that transaction, they are now a contact in the Mighty Cause CRM. So if I come here to my contacts, you will see these are all individuals in the system. Here, Jeannie and Jake Ringelberg and Quigley. I have a summary of their history of contributions, how they've interacted with us, data, contact type, whether it's an individual, a business, a fellow nonprofit, a group, name, if there's any organization we'd like to link them to. So maybe you have connections with other nonprofits, somebody from a grant group, somebody from maybe a for-profit that sponsors your organization. We can track that. Birthdays. I think this is a really great one. An underrated communication point with donors is a happy birthday message. No ask associated with it. We can offer them a happy birthday message. Again, just build those relationships. Preferred method of communications. This is something that we can track here as well. And again, as I mentioned, who our donors are, what motivates them to give, and how they like to be communicated with to give them the right message through the right channel. Summary of donations, summary of opportunities. That means that's what we refer to internally in our system as volunteering. So you'll be able to track how many times you volunteered and how many hours. Efforts fundraising, if they've hosted or ran any peer-to-peer campaigns. Contact information as well.
Josh, we had a quick question about recurring gifts.
Sure.
Is there an option for a donor to be notified by email or text before the next recurring donation occurs? Is there an option for a yearly recurring donation and annual membership fee?
Great question. So we do not have a yearly option. We do focus specifically on monthly. What we've seen is that statistically speaking, just in terms of the nonprofit industry, over 80% of recurring donations are monthly options. They're pretty exclusively, if people are going to be choosing a recurring option, it is monthly, which is why we focus on that monthly option to make it a little bit more simpler and more streamlined. Monthly donations are also just more impactful than a once annual gift. So that's why we focus on those regards. We do not have a notification that their donation is going to be charged once again, but they will receive with every single donation both a thank you message, which you can customize, So every donation will be accompanied with a thank you email as well as a tax deductible receipt. So they'll receive those with each of their donations. A recurring donor has the option, not required to, but does have the option to be able to manage their donations. So they'll be able to actually go into the back end of the system, should they like, and be able to change their donation amount, change their donation date, um, pause if they wanted to maybe say, let's say I'm a monthly donor, but I have a wedding coming up. So I've decided, wife and I have decided to buckle our belt a little bit for a few months. We're going to hold off maybe for 3 months on a monthly donation while we're saving up for that wedding. Then I could put that on pause and put either a date that we're going to restart it or just come back to it when I'd like to. So you have those opportunities. One thing that we will notify them about, however, is if there's an issue with their payment. So if you are signed up as a month or recurring donor, and let's say your credit card is expired and you weren't familiar with it, it will alert them that they have had an expiration date or that there was an error with their transaction, so that they can make updates or edits to that payment method, and will also alert you within the system as well. Lisa, any other questions that I can jump in on at this time?
Nothing so far, but yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to add to the chat or the Q&A tool.
Now, just again, highlighting some of these contacts, things that we can do here within the system as I was showing you. You can look at those individual profiles and start to see a bit more about our individual donors. You also have the opportunity to start to build out new unique filters. So you'll see I can pull people up by first name, last name. I can pull up groups by their preferred method of contact, their donation amounts, some of their individual different tags. Again, we don't want to have the same message going out to everybody. We'll have some things like a newsletter that goes out to all newsletter recipients, but things like some of our specific asks, some of our specific engagement points, we want those to be unique and more personalized. We want to cut through the noise. If you're like me, who's donated to many different nonprofits over the years, I'm receiving lots of different communications from lots of different groups. It can be a little overwhelming, but there are certain organizations that I have very strong relationships with. And what I often find is that those organizations are engaging with me in a little bit more of a strategic way. Like, for example, I have two rescue dogs that we fostered then adopted. I have a great relationship with that nonprofit. My wife volunteers there. We are regular donors. We host peer-to-peer fundraisers on their behalf. Some of the small things that they do, they send us Gotcha Day anniversary emails, um, reminding us, specifically mentioning our dog's name, the day that we rescued that dog, a little bit of information, thank you, something that's a little bit more personalized. They also sent one on the dog's, birthdays as well. Because we've rescued dogs, they let us know it's an organization that does both dogs and cats. Because we've rescued dogs as well, or rather than cats, a lot of their messaging tends to be around the dogs, the dogs that need emergency funds, dogs that need volunteer opportunities. Because my wife is a volunteer, they send her specific messages that specifically go out to volunteers, and not just volunteers, but she's a specific type of volunteer. She's one that goes to the houses of people before they bring in a rescue or foster dog to make sure that the house is suitable for a pet. So she's not just receiving generic volunteer messaging, but she's receiving a specific group, specifically people who are volunteers. So when they look at my wife's profile, they're seeing she's a donor, she's a two-time rescue, these are her dog's names, this is her preferred method of contact, this is where she lives, this is how much she's donated over the years and how frequently. These are how many peer-to-peer fundraisers that she's hosted and how much she's raised. They see that she's linked to me as her husband. They see what type of volunteer that she is. That's a lot of information that they're using to build in a relationship with me and my wife, which goes a long way. It's why we're so engaged. It's why we recommend them to other people who are looking for foster or rescue opportunities. That sort of relationship building is built upon data. Donor management, at the end of the day, the name is what it is. It's about managing the relationship and nurturing the relationships of our nonprofits. As I mentioned, retention is incredibly key. It is 10 times more cost effective, and I'll say that over and over again. And if you ever come onto a demo with me or one of my calls here internally, you'll hear me say it is 10 times more cost effective to retain a donor than find someone new to take their place. And here's the scary statistic: nonprofits lose about 60% of their donors from year to year. About 60% of donors that donate to you in 2025 are not going to donate to you in 2026 if you're the average nonprofit. Ideally, we want to see that number go up to about 60, 70 is what a really healthy nonprofit should be looking at. And how we're going to be able to do that, again, is being able to track our donor retention, being able to, as I showed you in the system, immediately pull out who is not retained and follow up with them. But two, look at our retained donors and making sure that we are nurturing that relationship. Building relationships leads to more sustainable giving, and sustainable giving leads to larger gifts. People often ask me, what is the best way to find a major donor? And the thing that I always tell them is that major donors do not give at a major level on their first gift. People don't come in and waltz to an organization and hand them a six-figure check for their first donation. They start off small. They start off with smaller gifts. And what they're doing is they're learning a little bit about you. Many major gift givers will start off with a small gift to see, what is the thank you process like? Do I get a thank you? Is it automated? Do I have to hunt for a receipt? And then how do they follow up with me? Is there a further follow-up thank you? Are they giving me context like, hey, this is what your donation went towards? Here's an example. If I mentioned something specific as a part of your organization that I specifically wanted my dollars to go towards, or a program that most interests me, are you letting me know more about that program? Are you sharing the opportunities to be able to support that program? Those are the sorts of things that are going to help people build from small one-time gifts to monthly gifts to larger gifts to other forms of engagement like volunteering or peer-to-peer or becoming a board member. So CRM, you probably hear that term a lot. If you're not familiar, it's a customer relationship management tool. It's interchangeable with the donor management tool as well. The focus is on focusing in this example, the customers are our donors. It's going to track, as I showed you, things like who's donated, our volunteers, our event attendees, our board members, and anyone else that we're engaging with. The goal here is to streamline the process and improve our donor relationship to grow our supporter base. A great example of how we can do so is peer-to-peer fundraising. Going back to our contacts tab. If we wanted to come in and identify individuals based on birthdays, and that's something that we want to pull up. Let's say we want to look at everybody who's going to be an October birthday. We can filter those individuals. And then follow up with them. Now, a great example of what we can do with those birthday donors is you've likely seen on Facebook or things along those lines, those birthday fundraisers. Now, the problem with the Facebook fundraiser is that Facebook fundraisers, and you might have seen this, maybe you haven't experienced it before, but if you do a Facebook birthday fundraiser, the nonprofit that your friends and family members are donating to will not see the names and contact information of your friends and family members. They'll receive the donation, but they are not going to get any information to be able to follow up with those individuals, which means it's not making introductions for the organization. It's not allowing them that opportunity to follow up, to engage, to build a donor relationship. Additionally, Facebook donations do tend to take about 2 months for the nonprofit to be able to actually see the donations, and they're typically in the form of a check. Whereas with the Mighty Cause donation, we have a twice-a-month disbursement, and you'll be able to set up a direct deposit. But again, everyone who donates to your organization on those peer-to-peer fundraisers will populate in the supporters and contacts tabs. So it's warm introductions. The benefit of a peer-to-peer campaign is that people are 3 times more likely to make a donation if they're asked by someone they personally know, rather than the organization itself. And additionally, your donors can raise 10 times more on average with a peer-to-peer campaign than they're likely to do through their own financial contributions. And we make it super simple. So let's say we use our system to pull up everybody that has a September birthday, and we send them an email that says, "Hey, we see your birthday is coming up. Thank you, happy birthday. Thank you so much for your past support of our organization. You've helped us be able to accomplish X, Y, and Z. If you would like to consider a birthday fundraiser on our behalf, we'd be extremely grateful. You can click here to do so, and it's a very simple step-by-step process. As you'll see, they'll simply click Get Started. Now, what we can do is actually provide them with a template. So they're not building this from scratch. What I'm actually going to have here is a page that's almost ready to publish from the get-go. I can add my name. Maybe I want to add a photo of my own pups, and I can pull them from any of these files. Maybe I think this goal is not ambitious enough, or maybe I want to slim it down. Here they've provided a little section of their own, but if I want to tell my own story about my own rescue dog experience, I can add more photos, links, videos, customize this message. Then when I'm ready to go, I'll hit publish. You'll be able to approve on the back end before that page goes live, so you can review it if you like. You can set that up. But that's all it's going to take. And I have a peer-to-peer page. You can also set up in the back end of the system automated messaging to our donors that will allow them to be able to get easy to use automated emails. As you can see here, we can create this quick email that goes to them once they've completed it, some helpful tools, contact information for support, best practices. We make the process extremely simple. And that's another example of how we can use our CRM to work smarter, not harder, to build relationships with our donors. The benefits of a CRM, centralized database. People often that I talk to tell me that their data is all over the place. They have information in MailChimp. They have information in spreadsheets. They have information from PayPal. They have information in QuickBooks. Things are all over. They're constantly manually entering that information. Whereas with Mighty Cause, everything is flowing into one simple place. As I've shown you, we have the opportunity now to focus on a little bit more personalization with our communication, pulling out some of those tags or different filters so that we're not sending out a mass message to all of our list, but rather something that's going to resonate with those donors. What that's going to do is create a better donor experience that leads to higher donor retention. And additionally, if I asked you to do some of these tasks, like I've shown you so far today, if I said, hey, PayPal user who's using spreadsheets, would you like to go and send out everybody who has a September birthday? Would you go reach out to them, wish them happy birthday, and send them a link to your peer-to-peer form? That is probably going to be a complicated process. If I said, hey, can you please flag everybody that donated in 2024 that hasn't donated yet in 2025 and thank them for their last gift and how much they gave and on what date it was, and send them a link to your embedded donation form, that's going to be a much more complicated process. Here, everything is going to be at your fingertips. A lot of people see a CRM if they haven't used one before, and it can seem a little bit overwhelming. But the truth of the matter is, most nonprofits using Mighty Cause only use it about 1 or 2 hours a week. Because the goal here is to make it super simple. We're working with a lot of small nonprofits, and what I always say is that I've never talked to a nonprofit that says they have too much time in their hands. The goal here is to be able to provide you, if you have an hour or two per week, to be able to have all the information that you need right there to be able to be effective, efficient, and move on with your day and focus on the important parts of your work. So when should you move to a CRM system? If you're using spreadsheets or multiple tools to track your donor information. If, as I mentioned, if there are difficult processes, it's a difficult process for you to be able to pull out segmentation or mass personalization, that's time to move into a CRM. If you have difficulty reporting or understanding your donor trends, think about, again, if I asked you, how many donors donated last year and how many of those have donated yet this year? Think about how long it would take you to calculate that process. If I asked you which months are our biggest donation months and how much do we raise those months? How are we comparing this? How did our August this September compare, or this August compared to August in 2024? Think about just the process that it's going to take to be able to fill or to pick that up. And a lot of organizations tell me that they're spending too much time with their manual tracking. I talked to a woman recently at her nonprofit that says she spends about 5 hours of her week just in her spreadsheets manually entering information. And that's the max amount of time that she can allot to it. So anything that isn't entered into the system at the end of those 5 hours of the week is just going to snowball into the next week. And this continues to grow and to grow and to grow. Where with Mighty Cause, we're limiting that manual entry. Now she's spending about an hour or two during the week being able to look through the system, pull out the information that she needs. She's being a little bit more strategic, and we've put 3 more hours into her week. As we've discussed, there's a number of different resources that we have here at Mighty Cause. Um, you can reach us for support at support@mightycause.com. Our support staff is live and in-house. Number two, as you've seen here, we host webinars. We host several webinars a month. They range on a variety of topics. If you ever can't attend one live, you're always able to register or view a recording. A number of guides and ebooks. Our ebooks deliver best practices on a number of topics: year-end fundraising, Giving Tuesday, peer-to-peer, donation forms, donor retention, all sorts of best practices. You can come here and learn a little bit more, and you can download those and read at your leisure. We also have a full blog as well. Our team, I just want to mention our team here at Mighty Cause. If you're interested, you can reach out to us. My team here will have a personalized phone call with you where they will learn a little bit more about you and your nonprofit. What's working in your fundraising? What are you looking to improve upon? What are challenges or goals that you have for this upcoming year and how we best align with that? And they can walk you through what would make most sense and how we can best help out. As I mentioned, we have free plans here at Mighty Cause, so it does not require any sort of monthly subscription to get started, to start to use our tools. Additionally, one thing that I want to mention as well is that when you get started, not only do we have support, but the members of my team will also help you to get up and running. They'll help you with things like getting the donation form set up and utilizing best practices for it. They'll help you with things like launching your first peer-to-peer campaign, bringing your existing information from spreadsheets into the system, starting to build reports or filters to have that sort of personalization. So again, I know for a lot of nonprofits, it can maybe feel overwhelming to start with a new system that you haven't used before. And we're very well aware of that. We're here to, I always like to joke, we're not just throwing you the keys on the lot and hoping you know how to drive your way out. We're going to help teach you how to benefit from the system. The goal is not to use our system, but the goal is to use our to just sign up for our system. The goal is to use it and to effectively fundraise more. Our mission is to be able to impact the fundraising of small nonprofits, and by helping you learn the system and take a crawl, walk, run approach, you'll be able to be up and running with the tools to be able to see some of these benefits like the CRM, the embedded donation forms, the peer-to-peer, and all the things that'll make your day-to-day easier.
Awesome. Well, as you see on your screen, some just next steps, as Josh mentioned, or as I mentioned also in the beginning, we will send an email with this recording of the webinar and a copy of the slide deck. In that follow-up email, we'll also include you can fill out a form to let us know if you're interested in learning more and chatting with our team. Again, it's completely free. As well, if you want to register for our next webinar, which will be next week, September 4th, it will be nonprofit fall fundraising tips for 2025. We also have a jam-packed webinar month and I should say fall giving webinar season if you want to check out our list of webinars. So we'll stick around for a couple of minutes for any questions. There was One question so far that came up, Josh, was about if a nonprofit uses an outside CRM system.
Um, Being able to use Mighty Cause in addition to an
Yeah.
outside. Yes, great question. So if I was to jump back over here, one of the things that you'll see is that we do have a number of integrations. One of our integrations is our Zapier tool. So if you use Salesforce, you'll be able to connect with Salesforce. Number two, we have an out-of-the-box integration with Salesforce. In addition to other CRMs, you can actually use Zapier. So Zapier is a third-party integration application tool. So you'll see here just some examples of a number of different tools and platforms that Zapier is able to connect with. So depending on the one, there are a number of CRMs that we connect with through Zapier. You can actually look through Zapier's website to see if that is something that connects to us. And you'll be able to link through this Zapier integration your CRM with the Mighty Cause tool. If there, for any reason, is not a direct integration through Zapier, all of our data is downloadable. So if you want to use us, for your donation tools, and then link it into your website, very simple to be able to come into our donations and export all this information to a flat CSV file that you can then upload into your CRM.
Awesome. I don't see any other questions. While we have the time, anyone that we can help answer? I don't. Yeah, I don't see any more. But if a question does come up, again, we'll send out an email. Please feel free to follow up with us and schedule a time to chat with one of our fundraising experts. We're so happy that we had the afternoon together, and I hope it was helpful and informational.